The world was a ticking time bomb in those days. The Middle East was at its worst, with Arab nations at war with Israel as well as each other.
The rising hostility between Saudi Arabia and Iran is creating concerns that the Middle East mess could actually get worse.
Now, the Shiites and the Sunnis, they hate each other more than they hate Israel, if you can believe that.
A large group of Palestinians set fire to the compound containing Joseph's tomb in the West Bank city of Nablus. Hamas previously declared that Friday would be a day of rage after days of attack in the West Bank and East Jerusalem.
Iran, and so they see a potential nuclear Iran as an existential threat.
Iran tested a new precision-guided ballistic missile on Sunday.
The Islamic State militant group is committing genocide against Christians and other religious minorities across the Middle East.
The gruesome images put ISIS brutality on frightening display.
Soleimani seemingly posing with troops in Syria. The latest evidence of Iran's growing involvement with Russia there.
The Iranians are planning to be heavily involved in what appears to be a planned major offensive in the area.
It's brewing right now, it's percolating, it's starting to boil here in the Middle East, and it's going to have a major impact on the future, not only the Middle East, but around the world.
Next, is it possible that war could actually break out?
Yes, that's a real possibility.
Due to an influx of immigration, the European Union was about to crumble. Civil unrest was at an all-time high, and Russia was knocking on their door, looking to regain their lost union.
This continent is at a boiling point.
We want a Europe free from fear, free from terrorists who shout Allah Akbar.
A party called the Sweden Democrats, led by youthful, energetic nationalists, is surging in popularity. The refugee influx is creating unprecedented issues.
On the ground, 2,500 Russian troops and hundreds of armored vehicles.
The Pacific region was another hotspot. China was pressing up against both the Philippines and Japan, ready to claim islands for themselves, while North Korea got more aggressive by the day.
New satellite imagery shows China's military buildup in the South China Sea continues, despite assurances from China's president last year.
It's not the first time the two nations have clashed over the area.
Yeah, that's right. This is just the latest in a string of incidents between the two countries in and above the waters off China.
Japan warned China that it is fraying relations between those two countries, both laying claim to islands in the East China Sea.
In my opinion, China is clearly militarizing the South China Sea, and you'd have to believe in a flat earth to think otherwise.
North Korea has unleashed more hostile rhetoric against the United States.
And breaking overnight, another provocation by North Korea. It's launched a medium-range missile.
North Korea's missile threat is real.
He added North Korea will make sure the U.S. pays the price.
They're holding a gun, but they haven't put the bullet in yet, and they're saying that's not threatening.
South America was falling apart due to natural disasters and failing governments.
It was a Category 4 storm, very powerful. Have you noticed a lot of volcano stuff in the news lately? How about this one over in Nicaragua?
70 kilometers off the Pacific coast town Esmeraldas, not far from the epicenter of the magnitude 7.8 earthquake on Saturday.
Well, early Monday morning, Tropical Storm Blanca officially made landfall in the Baja Peninsula.
Rain in Peru has led to the deaths of at least a dozen people and seriously affected thousands of others.
The landslide covered an area of 380,000.
The U.S., Canada, and Australia were no better. Both countries were torn apart politically, with riots and crime rising all over their cities.
Protests, street brawls, even arson attacks.
Before the shootings, protesters faced off with police with riot gear.
Now, the incident is the latest in a series of cases that...
Overnight, 2 officers shot outside the police station in Ferguson, Missouri.
The world was on the brink. And then they came. It started in the Middle East. Iran had launched nuclear missiles towards Israel, and Israel had responded in kind. Before either of the countries' missiles hit, the aliens had disabled them. They just came out of nowhere. But it wasn't a rescue. The aliens attacked. Jerusalem was hit first, then Tehran. Every news channel showed the same destruction of the Dome of the Rock. A temple that had stood for over 1,300 years was reduced to nothing. A large spaceship positioned atop the rubble. As the Israeli and Arab armies were being decimated, other countries joined in. The war for Earth had begun, and we lost. Unknown to us, the aliens had already planted insurgents into governments around the world. They looked like us, talked like us. None of us could identify them. As soon as we had launched a counterstrike, top leaders around the globe had been taken out. England's parliament was reduced to rubble. France's Council of Ministries was eradicated without a trace, and our own White House was set ablaze with a fire so hot that the soil in the ground turned to ash. Still, our combined armies were holding ground. Within 6 months, we had proper strategies and defenses set up to possibly win. The goal was to cut the head from the snake, destroy their base of operations in Jerusalem, and work our way back out. It was a solid plan. It would have worked. Our own media was our downfall. The Jaw had infiltrated world news centers, used brainwashing techniques to control the mass populace, creating a wave of protest for alien rights and to end the fighting. Even our own troops were being swayed, laying down their weapons. The people had lost their will. The war was already over. Immediately, the aliens took over. Their leader, Nobanatus, began speaking to the world. His story talked about how their kind, the Jaw, had visited the Earth thousands of years ago from their planet Colossi. How they had created us and watched as we grew as a species.
It says, word for word, that these beings descended in flying vehicles from the sky. They were space travelers who visited Earth in the remote past.
They claimed they had returned to stop us from bringing on our own extinction and to push us forward in our own evolution.
By what criteria do we consider something to be genetically altered?
When you talk about altering what's inside of us, it's not far from that to dealing with the very core creation of humanity.
Changes to DNA that could be inherited by future generations. That is, if you think about it, pretty profound. It means really altering human evolution.
He talked about teaching the world how to unlock their true potential. He talked about those who had already undergone the great change as he paraded high-level officials, celebrities, and even generals I had once knew as my friends. He talked about bringing this change to the rest of the world. He talked, and the people loved him. He talked. And while he talked, we slowly slipped away. Those of us who saw the people being rounded up and processed. We who saw the evil in the eyes of those already modified. Those of us that saw through their lies. We formed the resistance. We set up our base camps across the globe in remote areas, places cut off from modern technology, from prying eyes. We will fight to save those we can, to destroy the processing plants they've built, to wipe clean this planet of its infestation. While the rest of the world believes the war is over, ours has just begun.